don't buy any of it for a second. That DEI is not a national crisis. The president has got one job, and that is the safety and security of the American people. And Joe Biden not only failed at that job, but he put Americans at risk deliberately by opening up the southern border and letting 12 million criminals come into this country. You are not prioritizing the safety of your own citizens when you put their safety at risk. And diversity, equity, and inclusion, we've talked about this before. It is the exact same thing. It is a very real issue, even though the legacy media still want to pretend that it's not. It works silently, in the shadows. For the past 4 years, the Biden White House and Mayor Pete made it a national priority to hire the wrong people for very important, in many cases, life and death jobs. Not just the wrong people, but people that were hired based on sexual orientation, skin color, and race instead of their actual qualifications for the job. Example number one, Mayor Pete himself, our first ever openly gay cabinet secretary. We know that because the media celebrated it for months. Mayor Pete was the mayor of South Bend, Indiana, a city with 19 buses, and somehow that qualified him to run the largest transportation department in the world.
If confirmed by the Senate, Buttigieg would make history as the nation's first openly gay cabinet secretary.
If confirmed, you will be the first openly LGBTQ secretary in U.S. history.
When he was sworn in, he became the first openly gay cabinet secretary to be confirmed by Congress.
Former South Bend, Indiana mayor and presidential candidate is the first openly gay person to be confirmed by the Senate for a cabinet post.
They celebrate that like it matters. It doesn't matter. In New Orleans, a woman was hired as police chief who had no idea that the city had barriers available that could have prevented the New Year's Eve terrorist attack from happening. And we know that because she told us after it happened.
What you see behind us is what we call hardening the target. So we have brought in heavy trucks. You will see when you go down Bourbon, you will see yellow, what we call archers, and they're along the sidewalk. And that would be to be preventive if someone had, or if this particular terrorist went around up on the sidewalk, that's what that would do.
That's terrific, but it already happened. In Los Angeles, the same thing. A woman was hired to be fire chief, and instead of prioritizing putting out fires, she focused on DEI and inclusivity, which probably put people's lives at risk.
I'm super inspired.
She took time out of her already busy schedule to tell us about her vision for the department's future, one that includes a 3-year strategic plan to increase diversity.
And don't think for a second that as a result of these policies, we aren't all less safe today than we were 4 years ago. Frankly, I'm surprised that we haven't had more accidents like this. Last year alone, we had 19 near misses at airports across the country, meaning that what happened on Wednesday night in Washington almost happened 19 other times last year alone. From the Washington Post today, just the day before the D.C. plane crash, another jet had to abort the landing because of a helicopter in the plane's flight path, meaning this exact same thing almost happened on Tuesday at the exact same airport. From the Washington Post today, the FAA's diversity hiring practices were under scrutiny long before the air disaster in Washington, but it gets worse. It turns out that more than 1,000 air traffic controller applications were rejected based on race. According to a class action lawsuit filed back in April, the applicants were apparently, quote, too white for the job. Here's the lawyer representing almost 1,000 white applicants that were rejected by the FAA for jobs.
Well, hi there. I'm representing Mountain States Legal Foundation as part of a class action on behalf of 900 plus would-be air traffic controllers. And so we brought this suit based on the FAA's change in its hiring practices. So it used to be that they would score a pre-employment test and it would be based on merit. And all of our clients passed with flying colors. Many of them passed with 100% on this test. And the FAA decided that the pool of air traffic controller applicants was too white.
Shocking. Does anyone still think DEI is not a problem? Honestly. Right now, we don't know exactly what caused the plane crash over the Potomac River on Wednesday night. That's what investigations are for. But for far too long, Democrats have prioritized diversity over merit and ability, and yes, now safety. In the media, with all of their news stations, still want to pretend that none of this is an issue, that none of it matters, which is exactly why none of them matter anymore.
You are blaming Democrats and DEI policies and air traffic control and seemingly the member of the U.S. military who was flying that Black Hawk helicopter.
Blamed the diversity elements, but then told us that you weren't sure that the controllers made any mistake. I'm trying to figure out how you can come to the conclusion right now that diversity had something to do with this crash.
According to a report right from the FAA website, Mayor Pete, our diversity DEI hire transportation secretary, set a, quote, hiring goal of 3% per fiscal year for individuals with targeted disabilities that the federal government has identified for special emphasis in recruiting and hiring. And that went on to include people with total deafness in both ears, people that are missing extremities, partial paralysis, complete paralysis, including epilepsy, severe intellectual disabilities, psychiatric disabilities, and dwarfism. Well, isn't that wonderful? Am I allowed to ask what jobs you're handing out to people that have severe intellectual disabilities? Am I allowed to ask that question? I'd like to ask that question on behalf of everyone watching this right now. What job are you giving to a person with complete paralysis? I'm not trying to be cute or funny here. I'm completely serious. I'd like to know. I'd like to know what job someone with total paralysis is qualified to do. I certainly hope they're not working in the control tower. According to the New York Times, staffing in the control tower was not normal for the time of day and the volume of traffic. Quote, the controller handling helicopters in the airport's vicinity Wednesday night was also instructing planes that were landing. Those jobs are typically assigned to two controllers rather than one. And take a listen to Brad Mims, the deputy administrator at the FAA last year, on the next generation of air traffic controllers.
Hi, I'm Brad Mims, deputy administrator at the Federal Aviation Administration. We are looking for the best and brightest to join us as air traffic controllers. We need a diverse group of air traffic controllers to bring distinct perspectives to handle the ever-changing aerospace landscape. I'm calling on students and alumni from HBCUs, Hispanic serving institutions, and tribal colleges to apply now to become air traffic controllers.
Tribal colleges? We need people who can bring distinct perspective to the ever-changing aerospace landscape? The ever-changing aerospace landscape? What is Brad talking about? The aerospace landscape might be the one industry that fundamentally hasn't changed since its inception. Okay, I'm going to take you through it. Plane take off, plane fly, plane land safely. That's it, every day, over and over again. We're going to go through it again. Plane take off, plane fly, plane land safely. That's it. Here's more from FAA Administrator Brad Mims.
We need a diverse, next-generation air traffic workforce with people from all backgrounds. So apply now.
No, you don't, Brad. No, you do not, Bradley. You don't. You don't need diversity in the air traffic control tower. You need people that can make sure the planes land, fly, and take off safely. That is all you need. That's it. And all you've done by doing what you just did right there is point out to the entire planet that it is now time for a complete review, not just of DEI policies, but a review of every single person that's gotten a job and every single person that was rejected from a job that they were probably qualified for and didn't get it. That is death by DEI, Brad, right there. That's what that is. Here's Ted Cruz with our former FAA director, and I want you to tell me if you think this person was qualified for the job.
Have you ever flown a plane?
Thank you for the question, Senator. No, I have never flown a plane.
So you weren't a military pilot or a commercial airline pilot?
No, Senator.
Have you ever worked for an airline?
No, Senator.
Have you ever worked as an air traffic controller?
No, Senator.
Instead, this is what we get from the media. How dare you claim that DEI could be associated with anything bad that happens? How dare you try to make that connection? The best people for the job are the people who are the least qualified for the job. That's what the media wants us all to believe. We once lived in a meritocracy, a country where the best person for a job would get that job based on their skills, their training, their experience, their education, not based on skin color or who they go to bed with or gender. Here is White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt today.
If you are an American who has spent many years studying aviation and you graduate from school and you're an air traffic controller based on skill and merit, and then you apply for a job and you're forced to fill out a biographical questionnaire asking you the color of your skin and asking you where you're from in details that aren't relevant at all to the job description, I think that deteriorates the morale of people in this industry.
And look, I'm not trying to politicize this. I'm not trying to politicize a tragedy. But nobody wants to talk about this stuff. Nobody wants to bring this up. We're all still being so PC as we deal with the fallout from Joe Biden. No one wants to offend anyone. No one wants to ask hard questions about, hey, maybe who were the helicopter pilots? What were they doing? Every other network today wanted to talk about the victims on that plane. But I want to talk about DEI, dare I say the root causes of all of this, so we don't have any more victims, and that should be common sense.
Information. Truth. Is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.